Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Warcraft video. We have to break down the most recent war campaign cinematic. This one is really darn cool. It
it's
has
fucking great.
A lot of character development, more characters acknowledging things in their past that are very important, that actually somewhat address player concerns with those characters. And also, this is a cinematic that I believe teases massive and fundamental changes to the setup of World of Warcraft.
Because Thrall's gonna fuck Jaina. Like, that's what's gonna happen. Like, do you think Jaina wouldn't have... Like, she touched his arm? That means that, that Thrall... He's in, bro. Like, Thrall's in. Like, that's it. It's over. He's in.
Well as potentially some future content within the bounds of this expansion. So, with that said, let's get right into it. This cinematic is the end of the next stage of the war campaign. Now, we've already covered that war campaign on this channel, so we know that Thrall was recruited by Sarfang, and then we all ended up going to break Bane out of jail, where we believe he was going to be executed. And just as we get to Bane, our whole party is ambushed by the Sun Reavers, who are, of course, pretty salty over Jaina. Now that said, for the Horde side, there are two different types of player. There's the Horde player who is willingly going along with the rebels, but there's also the Horde player who, technically speaking, is allied with Sylvanas and is pretty much there as an informant, undercover. So that happens. Things get a little bit spotty towards the end, but it turns out it's pretty darn handy having a mage with you. So Jaina ports the party to safety, we arrive in Thunderbluff, and that is where this cinematic begins. So Thrall thanks Jaina for saving them, for saving Bane. If it wasn't for Jaina, then the whole thing would have ended up being rather hopeless. They would not have escaped, and pretty much they all would have died. Jaina says that she could not let Bane die. Of course, from Jaina's perspective, Bane got in this whole situation to save her brother. Thrall agrees, saying that he also couldn't stand idly by while Bane died because, well, from Thrall's perspective, he let Cairn die, right? That's Bane's father, and...
He didn't let him die. Like, Thrall, that's not his fucking fault. It's not even Garrosh's fault. It's that conniving bitch Magatha Grimtotem that poisoned Garrosh's blades. It has nothing to do with Thrall. Like, Thrall's fucked up a lot of stuff, but it was not his fault at all. Alright? Yeah, Magatha Grimtotem, whatever the fuck her name is. Thrall didn't do anything wrong. Garrosh didn't do anything wrong. It was just her that caused the problem. If Thrall feels responsible, that doesn't mean that it's his fault. But actually, no, you're right. Because if Thrall had never left, then Garrosh would have never challenged Cairn to the Magorka, or Magorka, whatever the fuck it's called, because Cairn would have never questioned him being the war chief, because he'd never be the war chief. Wait, yeah, it is Thrall's fault. Wait, what the fuck? We just turned that around. Holy shit, okay.
Thrall then goes on to open up about really what he views as his past mistakes. So, Cairn's death, Garrosh, the Theramore bombing, and that when he looks back, he feels like he just made the wrong choice.
You should have never left, Thrall.
With his actions.
Should have never left.
This is, of course, a feeling that Jaina empathizes with, saying that they both have blood in their hands.
Yeah, because you killed your dad.
Perspective, well,
betrayed your dad.
She did do the whole purge of Dalaran, which was rather overzealous.
No, it wasn't. That was
fine. Pointed out to players in the war campaign as the people who Sylvanas gets to ambush the rescue party for Bane. Well, they are Sun Reavers who experienced the purge of Dalaran, where Jaina did end up offing a lot of innocent people, which obviously was not really
it's the way it goes, you know?
She was justifiably angry at what some of the Sun Reavers had done. And really, before I move on with the rest of the analysis of this cinematic, there's a lot of meta stuff going on here, because when Thrall says all of those things, well, they were fairly controversial decisions at the time from the perspective of players. The death of Cairn, that really ticked people off.
That made me mad.
It felt like a real waste of a classic character from
it
Warcraft
sure
3,
was.
kind of just dying off screen with it not really meaning that much.
They didn't even have a cinematic for that shit. Like, that should have been a fucking whole cinematic with Garrosh and Cairn fighting. Like, can you fucking believe that? And like, he was like one of the biggest guys. I remember like logging on the patch. Oh, Cairn's dead. Wait, what? What? Yeah, surprise.
And then with Garrosh, well, I think the Garrosh plot is its own thing, but
Thrall's
involvement of that, the way it felt like Thrall just sort of shirked responsibility, and the way that he then pretty much just left and did his shaman stuff and ended up being, you know, the whole joke of Green Jesus, you know, he ends up doing that, and then he kind of just leaves. Now, a lot of you know, a lot of what we see feels a bit more like old school Thrall, and when you
Fuck
see
yeah,
a
it
cinematic
does.
like this, he pretty much is saying that he feels like he made the wrong decision, and those are decisions that most players, I think, view as really the decisions that kind of torpedoed Thrall as a good character in the game. This
is why I played on Thrall server, because he was a fucking badass. Like, Thrall was awesome back in the day. Like, if you go and look at it, I mean, the character model basically is all that you need to see. Like, the old Thrall character model was like this big badass beefy orc. And then he turned into this like shaman that's like the weird dad or something like that. And now finally they're bringing him back, and they completely changed his model. They literally grew his hair back just for the story.
Does have Thrall feeling a lot more like the Thrall of Warcraft 3. Of
You're
course,
goddamn right.
not the same guy. You know, a Thrall that has went through a lot more strife in their life, has made these mistakes, which I think a lot of players also think are mistakes, and maybe has reflected upon them and ended up being in a more centered position. I think this is setting the stage for a Thrall who will be a lot more familiar to the old school World of Warcraft players. And
I
speaking
fucking
of
hope
that,
so.
well,
Holy
that's where this
shit, I
cinematic
fucking
kind
hope
of
so.
goes on to. So they pretty much say, you know, Thunderbluff will be the next Teldrassil.
Siege of
After
Thunderbluff.
it's been so obvious that all of these key characters have
Patch
slowly betrayed
8.4.
Sylvanas, they've worked for the Alliance, the Tauren are probably public enemy number one now, that surely Sylvanas will hit Thunderbluff and take them out. And this is where Jaina says something that ends up being very important, that at one time, her and Thrall stood side by side and defended Mount Hyjal.
That's
and
true.
When they did that,
Those were the fucking
that world
days.
tree did not fall, as Teldrassil did. And Thrall kind of exhibits a bit of skepticism at that.
Yeah, dude.
And it's a skepticism that a lot of players feel. Thrall says that we've been at this crossroads before. The Alliance and the Horde have worked together before many times, but it always goes south afterwards. The alliance between the Alliance and the Horde never lasts. The war keeps on going.
Well, yeah, how are you going to get the
right
next
to be
expansion
a little
out?
bit, not suspicious of Jaina or anything like that, but he's right to be like a bit depressed about the idea that here, him and Jaina they get along together, they can talk, yet for some reason their sides always end up coming into conflicts. And that is something that a lot of players feel. When we all banded together in the Legion expansion, of course that's when the Alliance and the Horde were really pretty wrecked, and they were pretty busy defending their own territory, so it fell down to the class orders to do most of the heavy lifting. Well, when that happened, a lot of players were sort of suspicious, being like, yeah, well, you know what, we've worked together before, it just doesn't mean anything. And I think that's really what this cinematic's actually hitting on in multiple places with the words that Thrall spoke. Well, they're actually right in line with, I don't want to say player discontent, but maybe player suspicions or players maybe second thoughts about some of Blizzard's storylines and where they've ended up going. And
So Thrall's basically the player base, and the player base is like, okay, we're gonna do this one again, all right. It's only been a couple years, let's bring it back on around. Yeah, I can see what he's saying, like, that's probably true. And yeah, it's happened like, okay, you know, you had fucking the Lich King. Everybody gets together and fights the Lich King, then Cataclysm happens. You have Mists of Pandaria. Why are they fighting in Mists of Pandaria? I don't know, resources or something. Then they get together and they kill Garrosh. Then, you know, WoD happens and they get together and they kill Archimonde. Then they get together and they kill fucking Sargeras or Argus or whatever the fuck. Kill Jaden. Yeah, it's happened every single time. And like, this is always the way that it goes. And I'm okay with them just repeating this plot over and over. Like, I honestly, I don't, it doesn't matter to me. I feel like what would be better in the game is if they had more, like, unique problems that both different races had, like, their own reason, or different, like, factions had their own reason of overcoming, rather than having Jaina as a thought. No, she's not. Actually, like, I mean, how many boyfriends has she had? Never mind. Yeah. So there's Kael'thas, Arthas, Kael'thas, and they're all dead.
Wait, why are you calling her a slut, chat?
I didn't say she's a slut.
I didn't say you were. I said
Okay.
chat is. Why are you... What's wrong with you guys? Women can't have boyfriends? What the fuck, dude? Hey, at least they can get people unlike you. You fucking incels. Fuck you.
So if Jaina and Thrall start dating, then Thrall's dead, basically. I mean, like, literally every single male that is associated with Jaina is dead. Think about it. Her dad, her brother is literally a Forsaken. Arthas, Kael'thas. Kael'thas died twice. What's his name? Ronan in fucking the old Dalaran. Varian's fucking dead. Like, literally every single person, every male that Jaina has come in contact with dies.
You know what?
What?
Now that you put it that way,
I mean, don't you see like a bit of a pattern here? Yeah, she's cursed. Maybe this is the Dreadlord arc that we've all been waiting for. And it's all just been happening right in front of our eyes, but no one was smart enough to see it.
I think it's very interesting. Just to me, it feels like this was written in a very self-aware fashion.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that it's Blizzard breaking the fourth wall or anything. I think that a lot of players' suspicions about these things, well, from Thrall's perspective as a character, with the decisions that he's made and how things have turned out, yeah, he absolutely is going to feel the way that he does.
Yeah,
so I suppose it's a nice time where Thrall, as a character, a lot of the things that he logically would think in this scenario are actually in alignment with what a lot of players will actually think about how his story has went and how the story of the factions has ended up going. And this is where it gets really quite big. Thrall says, what's different this time? And you know what? Every time Blizzard tell us that our factions are going to band together or something like that,
it's a new patch.
That's kind of what players would say back to Blizzard. You know, oh, yeah, well,
yeah.
What's different this time? I'm sure we'll end up fighting each other again. I'm sure we all pretty much said that after the Siege of Orgrimmar, right?
Yeah.
And Jaina simply touches his arm and says, we are. And that is quite big, and you'll see why. Now, she then decides that she has to go, she has to tell Anduin what's happened, and Saurfang turns to her and says, tell your king that he is not alone. That makes it very clear that this new horde is directly allied with the Alliance, and at least insofar as deposing Sylvanas and ridding the world of all of this war goes, Saurfang, Bane, Thrall, the Alliance, they all pretty much are going to be working together. And this is really what takes us on to the reason why I decided to record this video, and that is the broader implications and what I believe that Blizzard are sort of hinting at with this. And I am cautious to read into things too much, but just given how almost meta-aware so much of this stuff was, and how Thrall really, he sounds like a suspicious World of Warcraft player, doesn't he, in this cinematic?
Should I resub?
So given all of that...
Maybe that's it. You know, we got like a 3-day free trial back to Azeroth because he was over in Outland, and he's deciding if he should resub or not, and Jaina's trying to convince him. You know, maybe we can go into that level of depth there. If that's what they're trying to do, Blizzard, that's actually pretty fucking funny. This lore is shit? I mean, like, what do you mean it's shit? Like, how's it... I don't know if it's really shit. I mean, it's not... How much better is it? I don't know. I mean, like, what lore wasn't shit? I think Illidan was kind of well written. Yeah, at the beginning, like... Wait, it's hard really for me to say. It's not that bad, okay? Let me say that. It's not that bad. The problem is that, like, they've just used the same story arc so many times, and I think that's kind of, like, just an outcome of, like, the way the game is structured. So I don't know really what they can do about that.
It really does seem like this is the time to read into things just a little bit more. So on that, let's talk about war. Every time the war stops, well, you know, this has all happened before, it's all going to happen again, we just end up back in another cycle of war.
Yep.
It happened with every single war chief handover. You know, Thrall had little spurts of war happen, he then gives it over to Garrosh, there's even more war, Vol'jin gets it, nominates Sylvanas, even more war keeps on happening. Now, why does this war keep on happening, even in a situation where really, by all accounts, it shouldn't. Because just after Siege of Orgrimmar, you know, Vol'jin and Varian pretty much have their agreement to,
well, they're dead, so who cares?
Not be going to war. What happens in the next patch? Oh,
they go to
expansion, war. Ashran.
Surprise!
So, really, my read into this is one of the reasons why the Alliance Horde conflict has just been continually perpetuated is that it's built into the format of the game.
Yeah.
It's just a fundamental part of World of Warcraft.
Exactly.
Both as a game and gameplay, but also as the setup for so much of its narrative and the world. The Alliance versus the Horde and that struggle, that pretty much is at the core of Warcraft, even though what's
it's
also
Warcraft.
The core of Warcraft pretty much
Not
is both sides
Friendcraft.
being somewhat reasonable and having sympathetic angles to them. And it really seems to me like, you know, Jaina is saying that we're different now. It does make it seem like Blizzard are saying, no, this time when they band together, it's actually going to mean something. It's actually going to last. That makes me think that Battle for Azeroth might actually be the last expansion with just this traditional setup with the Alliance versus the Horde. Now, I don't know what that actually means. You know, I don't know if that means we're going to have life versus death, as some have speculated, or
I would love that. That'd be awesome.
You have more loose alliances on your, you know, just on a per character basis, and things are a little bit more freeform. It's hard.
I don't know if they should do that. I mean, that'd be really fucking big. The last war. I don't know, man. It's like if they did that, like they could do something where Alliance and Horde were like pretty well. I guess like, and this is kind of what happened in Wrath of the Lich King, right? Is that the Alliance and Horde were pretty much allies, besides Garrosh and Varian, which are the two, hey, I'm a big fucking asshole and I'm an orc. And then Varian comes over, hey, I'm a big fucking asshole and I'm a human. And he's like, the hell you so if I fuck you. And then it's like two dogs barking at each other. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, it was fucking stupid. But that being said, other than that, they all work together, right? You had the beginning with the Wrathgate cinematic, then you had the obviously Trial of the Champion, which is like, you know, faction champions, etc. Again, led by Garrosh, but it was basically to bring everybody together. Then you had ICC, everybody's together again. So yeah, it was pretty much a cooperative expansion. If they do that, and then the next expansion is like, you know, like, I don't know, the Black Empire. You know, and it's like, oh my god, the old gods are here. Or, oh, Sylvanas is now the Lich King or something. Like, I could see them literally doing the exact same fucking thing. But, like, what happens after that? I don't know. I have no idea what happens after Wrath of the Lich Queen 2, you know, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Maybe it's just the last expansion. I doubt it. I mean, like, Blizzard is probably making a lot of money with WoW. Why would they stop making money? Like, I don't know if that would happen. I mean, it could happen. I mean, you never know. In a perfect world, they would actually make it the last expansion. And then they would stop making WoW expansions. They would make Warcraft 4, the new RTS that just completely takes the world by storm. And then use Warcraft 4 to advance the storyline 100 years. And then we have World of Warcraft 2. Like, that's what, I mean, in a perfect world, that's what we would have. Third faction? I don't know if they would do a third faction. Let's finish the video and I'll talk about a third faction idea, though.
Hard to tell exactly what that will actually look like, but it does seem to me like this is suggesting a fundamental change in the setup of the game and the setup of the factions. And as much as I may have been suspicious of something like that being done in the past, I actually feel like that might be a revitalizing thing for the game if they were to do it. I feel like now that we're at, you know, 9.0, or 9.0 will be the next one, that might be time for a major change. And that major change could be a lot more than just a new faction system. I've been thinking a lot about the idea of World of Warcraft 2.0. It's something that we've all been talking about for a very long time indeed.
Me too.
And for me, I've never really thought that WoW 2.0 will be a separate game. I've always just kind of thought it will be, you know, an expansion that is a really major overhaul. Kind of like Cataclysm again, right? And that's really got me thinking lately. So this, to me, suggests the end of the faction paradigm that we've become so used to. We then see the level squish, right? The level squish that was essentially confirmed by a Blizzard survey. And that does make me wonder, what happens if, you know, Ian walks onto the stage at BlizzCon 2019 and pretty much says that in 9.0, we're back to level 60, the level squish happens, there's maybe a bit of a world revamp going on, and the faction system is overhauled. And essentially you have WoW 2.0, you know, in all but name. I really do wonder if something like that will happen, and if this is them setting some of the narrative groundwork for that. I mean, just watch the cinematic again. The way Thrall talks, the way Jaina talks, it is teasing such a large change in the fundamentals here, because we know
here's another thing they could do, is they could kill Thrall and Jaina, and now just do it again, because they're dead. So now new people have to make the same mistakes. Boom, problem solved. Think about that. I mean, which one's easier for Blizzard? Where the fuck is Valen? Who gives a fuck?
Sylvanas is not going to end this expansion as War Chief. And when you look at the three most important characters of the Horde right now, that's Thrall, that's Sarfang, that's Bane, they're all friends with the Alliance. I don't think there is any reasonable way they could have any of those characters get back into a war with the Alliance after all that has happened.
That's a really good
Blizzard,
point.
like, this dialogue is knowing of how Blizzard had teased that, and then ended up going against it just a patch later, and how that's basically kind of pissed off players. Yeah. This is so annoying. I just don't think they can go back on it. So that is like I mean, if you're going to, you know, go Galaxy Brain tinfoil hat mode, I think that's what this could be suggesting about 9.0, right? Or like some future expansion. Let's just cap this video off though with what this could actually mean for the direct future of the game. What could actually happen? So they've teased the idea of Sylvanas pretty much marching in Thunderbluff and just roasting it completely. Will that happen? Maybe. Will it happen within patch 8.2? Almost certainly not. Instead, it will probably happen with patch 8.2.5. Of course, with 8.1.5, we did see the war campaign progress quite a lot, so it makes sense that that would happen with 8.2.5. Now, here's the thing. 8.3. We're almost completely sure that's N'Zoth. Now, they could subvert our expectations. They could really change that up. Sylvanas could even be involved somehow in that raid. But it pretty much seems like it's going to have to be a major new area, maybe Ny'alotha, and a major new villain. A villain worthy of the end of an expansion, which really is quite a high bar considering we're just off the back of Argus, which was pretty darn major. So for me, it seems like a lot of this Alliance Horde conflict has to be resolved within 8.2.5. And I wonder if 8.2.5 therefore will pretty much just be the rebellion, the full Horde rebellion, because what you also will learn as you go through Nazjatar, and this is something that is already, actually you'll know plenty of this from the war campaign anyway, that is that Lorthamar is pretty much buddying up with Jaina as well. That Thalyssra is also buddying up with Jaina and does not like where things are going with Sylvanas.
What the fuck?
We know that Rexxar also does not really like where things are going with Sylvanas.
Rexxar always just does whatever the fuck he wants.
The one Horde leader who pretty much thought, aye, Bane, chop his head off, was Geira, right? So the leader of the Maghar Orcs.
Who gives a fuck about that bitch, dude?
The Maghar Orcs were supposed to be
There's a dog named Geira.
Content patch. They were not supposed to be there at launch.
Gives a shit.
Blizzard had to reshuffle their plans. And it does make me wonder, you know, with Geira being such a big, seemingly like fan of Sylvanas, if her coming in, being a fan of Sylvanas, sort of being on that side, but also all of the sort of corrupted evil light stuff, if that was planned for 8.2.5 or 8.3, which kind of would have spiced up the themes of these patches a little bit more and maybe would have tied them a bit closer together with 9.0, which I have suspected for a long time will involve the light, the bad sides of the light. But anyway, in terms of content, I'm pretty sure that there will be a large resolution. Maybe it'll be the battle for Thunderbluff. Right, it could very well be that. Maybe that could end up being another
I hope
warfront.
not.
Like, there was a warfront that was around that area in Mulgore, but I'm pretty sure that was just for testing back in beta. I mean, it never even made it onto beta. It was just stuff that was referenced in game files. So it could be that that actually will end up being a warfront. Perhaps, though, I can't really see Blizzard investing too much more in the warfront system. But anyway, mark my words, 8.2.5 is going to involve us teaming up and taking down Sylvanas. But here's the thing that's going to be kind of crazy. The Horde Sylvanas loyalist player is in quite a pickle. They have...
No, they're not. They're just a fucking idiot. Like, if you're a loyalist to Sylvanas, you're a cuck. I mean, you're just a fucking cuck. And that's all there is to it. And I don't want to hear anything else about it. The Forsaken are they're literally programmed to be cucks to Sylvanas. That's it.
Dude.
What?
That's kind of fucked up to say.
She literally raises them as undead and makes them obey her or they kill them.
Yeah, you're right. They cucks.
They're cucks. I mean, they are, dude. Let's be real. Sylvanas is a bitch.
Played along with everything. And of course, they've informed Sylvanas the whole way so that Sylvanas knows what's up. She knows what the Alliance are doing. She knows what the Rebels are doing. But you still have this player who's really helped the Rebels out just while telling Sylvanas everything. And we've really wondered, how are Blizzard going to resolve that plotline? Because
they're not going to.
Is that player going to have a different, narrative? Are those
no?
players
They're not
going to
resolve it
differently? That would be quite an undertaking.
I can guarantee
very much
you.
could be the case that Sylvanas will betray the player who has been loyal to her, because she does have complete deniability, because that player, I mean, sure, they tipped her off and they informed her, but they still helped break Bane out of prison and killed loyal Horde people, or loyal Sylvanas people.
That's true.
So that will definitely be a very interesting thing in this patch. For my money, Sylvanas is just going to betray the loyalist player and get rid of them, and that will essentially be Blizzard.
That's actually probably true.
Working out the implications of that choice and kind of moving everyone back onto the same track so they don't have too many diverging plot lines with their players moving forward. So I'm pretty sure that will happen. But yeah, it seems like anyway, 8.2.5 is going to be super major, super major, and that it all could be setting up a completely different paradigm. Is that different Alliance and different Horde? Is that your character can choose a faction at their will? Is it life versus death? I mean, that certainly could work with many upcoming expansion themes. It's hard to know right now. Do let me know what you think down below, though. This is such an interesting cinematic, and the future of this game, I mean, they're teasing so many interesting things here. I just love to hear what you've got to say about it. So, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching this video, and with that, I'll see you next time.
Well, fuck.
Bye, Bellular.
Well, fuck, dude. Is that what's gonna happen? The whole new content where it's literally, I mean, like, are we really gonna have a completely new fucking faction and everything? Like, what do you think, man? Is that shit gonna happen?
Oh god, I can only fucking dream, dude. Something
Really?
needs to shake this. Yeah, something needs to shake this dusty, sloppy, dry, boring game up, man.
What could that something be? Like, I don't even know, like...
Fudas!
Okay, alright, you know what? We're still on that, yeah, no. Okay, like, let's just not, we're not doing that. Not enough players for a third faction. I don't know, like, I do think Bellular might be onto something. They're actually going to try to shake things up. But you're right. Like, I mean, there's just so much shit in the game that everybody's seen 100 times before. What's the amazement in seeing it for the 150th time? Like, it's just been, it's been so common. So, I don't know, man. I'm not too impressed by that. We've seen so much of it, and I don't really think that it's going to be anything different this time. Like, can you see, like, the factions actually being able to, like, communicate and, like, group together and shit? Maybe that's how they're going to handle faction imbalance.
Wait, they already can. Do people not know that you can talk to other people on the faction?
Oh, with the potion, yeah.
All you have to do is drink the potion, then you can understand if they drink it too. That's already in the game.
You're right about that. So now it's 9.0 that's going to save the game. Remember when Blizzard said Sylvanas won't be Garrosh 2.0? Hey, you know, they've said a lot of things. Damn, it took 4 hours to release reaction. Mechagon exponential limits of farming already dailies and rares 2 times better than Nashtar, which is like 3 times as large. King Anduin dispatch is like Gendry in Game of Thrones, off scene rowing a boat. That actually is true. Siege of Thunderbluff. If they made Thunderbluff a warfront, that'd be fine. But I think if they made it a raid, I wouldn't like it. Sylvanas Informant characters actually just get their... This is a good idea, actually. I like this idea. Sylvanas Informant characters actually just get their character deleted without warning. Like, this is a great... Yeah, there we fucking go. And that's what they get for being fucking cucks. Being a cuck to Sylvanas, man. It's just embarrassing. I'm actually really glad that Bellular made this video. Like, the idea, like, the large-scale ideas and, like, changes and shit, right, in the game is something that really needs to happen. Whenever it looks back, it feels like they made their own choices every time. Blizzard looking back at what they've done in World of Warcraft. I'm sure Greymane and Tyrande are going to rage on all that in another chapter of the war will start. Yeah, you never forget about them. That's true. Thrall is so discovered the state of Shaman and BFA. Reroll is a sneaky rogue. I don't know, man. Like, Horde... Say what?
That's true. Shamans suck.
Yeah, they actually probably do. All right. Let's see. Blizzard made the new MMO. Would you play it? Yeah, of course. If Blizzard made any game, I'd play it. I'm a fanboy. What can I say?